Hey everybody. This piece I casted about a couple weekends ago with my niece Kirsten. She came over to do some turning, and we took that opportunity to throw a bunch of resin in a bunch of stuff and just see what happens. So this piece has unknown wood we call fogwood, found on ground. I got it at one of our wood turning meetings, I think in a raffle, or someone had given it to me. Just a gnarly, ugly looking, branch on the outside. But I did make a pot. I actually have it listed still in my Etsy store with this same wood, but it's a little, different coloring. Anyways, here I'm had to hot glue a bottom to it because I didn't want to drill a hole through it. I was kind of unsure exactly how I was going to mount it and what I was going to make. So a friend of mine brought me some walnut. Mike Hinman. Thank you, Mike, for that wood. So I'm sanding this piece down, and I'm going to use 5-minute epoxy to attach the cut piece of walnut to it. This is going to be the top. So I'm going to reattach it onto the lathe with a wormwood screw. Because it's going to be a top and eventually hollowed out. That will be a big deal, and I'll hold on really nicely. Sorry about the noise in the background. That's my bat cat. He is going crazy. I'm cutting off the sacrificial foot that I put on there just to attach to the lathe. Flatten it out really good. Sand it again on this side, and attach the walnut piece with 5-minute epoxy. Resin and wood together is a very interesting thing to cut. And especially right where this hump that I'm working on right now is in my chuck. It's in every single piece that I turn. It doesn't matter. It stays wobbly. There's something with how it is out in the spindle or the chuck or whatever that causes a very consistent wobble right in the area. So I mean, I am working hard to try to get at it, but when you can tell it's just bouncing any tool I put on it right off of it. So I kind of gave up on it at that point because I just wanted to kind of get it round so I can, I'm going to be turning it back around and turning it again anyway. If you can cut the resin and wood with a bowl gouge, that's great. Some areas it just will catch and just start to shatter. I notice once I get more past the outer layer of the resin, it tends to turn a little more smoothly with the bowl gouge. Really good sharpened bowl gouge. But a lot of it I try to turn so I can get a nice smooth, and I was kind of worried about it chipping out because it does. So you do more of like a shear cut with it when you're trying to do those finishing cuts with a bowl gouge. But I sharpened all of my scrapers to negative rake, so those work really well for turning the resin. Hollowing it out is a different story. That is much funner, but you'll see that when we get there. Sanding through the grit starting at 80, and I think it ended at 400 on this piece. Even though that wood was unknown, it definitely was like cement. It looked like liquid gold when it was finished. But if you have a eraser handy, I got a big one from Walmart. It helps to degunk your sandpaper. So I just use, that's what that eraser is there for. It helps to get everything out of my sandpaper as I go, and it works really well, especially on my belt sanders. After sanding it to 400, I'm going to use some Axe abrasive sanding paste. This stuff worked really well, and I really appreciate Tom sending that to me. I think that's, quite awesome of him, because I do make my own abrasive paste, but I can say that this blew me away. You may have watched my other videos and seen that I never used any kind of commercial abrasive paste before. I've always just made my own, and it is some awesome stuff. I really, really loved how that turned out. So now I'm going to put the restoring polish on it, the Axe restoring polish, and it just really makes the wood pop. It's beautiful. I can't say enough about it. I love the fact that it's all food safe. So, you have a two-step process and everything, and it's food safe, and you don't need anything else if you didn't want to have anything else on it. So, and NOVUS Shine Juice goes over the restoring polish really well. Like, it just really, it doesn't have any spots where it doesn't adhere. Sometimes I have that problem with some finishes sometimes where the OB Shine Juice doesn't want to be consistent throughout the piece, but I didn't have that problem at all. So thank you so much for sending me those samples. I really appreciate it, and they were wonderful to work with. So everything's gone good with this piece up until I start to hollow it out. Then it puts too much pressure on the very shallow mortise that I created, and a little too big of a mortise, so it didn't leave much meat around the edges. So I got a hairline crack and could not keep it on the lathe. I poured more resin into my mortise and left it sit overnight. So the following day I went out and recut a mortise that was a lot deeper and a little smaller, so that a way it would have a little more meat to hold on to. This project just seemed to prove itself to be a challenge from start to finish, including branding my brand on the bottom. It didn't, get it all the way, so it says 22nd Corinthians 5:7. That's not what it's supposed to say. But anyways, it was one of those, I'm just gonna have to lower my expectations for this particular project because it was being a pain from the start to finish. And that's okay. Sometimes you have those days in the shop where it seems like everything you do to a piece, it just fights you the whole way. And I just allowed my shoulders to relax and say, you know what? Come what may, it'll be okay. I had to have that attitude because really you have no choice at that point. What are you going to do? I'm going to be honest here. I threw every tool I had in the shop at this project. Doesn't help that, of course, it's wobbling like crazy, and that is due to the lathe and a combination of the lathe and the chuck. And the wood in here is like concrete, so you have two different textures that you're trying to cut, which is difficult in itself. So I started with my bowl gouge to cut away the wood. Then I went to negative rake carbide cutter. I went to a carbide cutter, then I used my negative rake scraper. You'll see that I moved back and forth with the tools, and at this point I'm just trying to see what is cutting best. And you can tell because either you're getting this real small chippy shavings or you're getting a little more evidence in the cut that you're actually cutting a little better. So I went back and forth, and the bowl gouge seemed to help get a lot out, but depending on the hardness of the resin, how it's cured, because as it sits, the longer it sits, the harder it gets, will cause chip out. And I wasn't really too concerned about the inside, but I wasn't sure how that was fracturing what was going on the outside. So that's another reason why I didn't use my Forstner bit right away, because I was afraid that that Forstner bit would be too, I guess, aggressive for this project. But there was quite a bit of resin compared to wood in certain areas, and then of course it went back to just being a whole lot of resin with a little bit of wood and others. So I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is taking way too long, and decided to go ahead and use my Forstner bit. So I used one size and then went up a step to get it to where I was comfortable enough with that. And of course it's still doing its wobbly thing, and that makes it difficult on top. So far the negative rake scrapers seem to work the best, but when it comes to certain woods, it just will take forever. You'll be cutting away on the resin, but the wood is just taking forever. So it's quite a learning curve getting used to turning resin and wood together. I mean, resin in itself is quite a learning curve, and then you're adding this unknown wood that's in there that's turned like concrete to resin, which is softer than that, and it's just combination. It was fun, needless to say. So I can't really say I mean, this was one of those projects where it was like, well, let's see what works best. And I'm sure every project is going to have its individual what works best. I love using my bowl gouge, and I think that is something I want to try to learn to do better, because it's a tool that I'm more comfortable with. So the negative rake scrapers did all right. It just seemed like it took forever. So I'm just too impatient that way, and frustrated because this thing's wobbling all around like crazy, and certain areas inside when I hollow, regardless to what it is that I'm working on. Could be a wet bowl, dry bowl, it doesn't matter. There is just an area that you end up having to sand it really good because it just looks like you beat it to death instead of cut it. So thank goodness this Friday, yay, my headstock should be in, and I will wait till then to turn anything new because I want to stop turning wobbly stuff. So wish me luck on that. So I'm using my 50/50 lacquer and lacquer thinner as a sanding sealer, and then letting that dry completely. I may have ran over it with some fine grit sandpaper, I can't remember. Then I used an Axe abrasive paste. I really love this stuff. It works really well on the resin and on the wood, but obviously you see it a lot more, and it's more noticeable in the resin. Because of the scratches. If there's a little bit of scratches, you see them. So I really appreciate, again, Tom, for you sending that to me. I really love your product. It works very well. And then after that, I put the restoring paste polish on it, and then my OB Shine Juice. I put about two or three coats, I think, on this for the OB Shine Juice, and it just really made that wood pop. I have no idea what that wood is that I had casted in there. Like I said, it was just some sort of gnarly branch that I got, and it looks like liquid gold. Like if gold came from a tree, that would be the tree. It just blew me away on how beautiful that piece was. So anyways, this resin project had a lot of trials and errors and problems and discoveries, I guess, on how to and what not to do. But it was fun, and I'm looking forward to my next resin project, something with a little more resin. And normally, prior to receiving some resin from Total Boat, I normally would turn, small projects that I need a pressure pot for. So now that I have a pressure pot and new resin, it is a new journey and very exciting. I'm glad to share it with y'all. And I guess as I learn and develop a better ability of cutting and all of that, I hope to be able to share that with you so you kind of get an idea of what to expect. But it turned out beautiful. Thank you for watching, and God bless.